I suppose, like, all right, well, just to touch on what you were saying, like, I suppose there's two different or multiple different reactions that people could have to sort of political content and music, right? Like, depending on how you go about it. I mean, I've definitely got them all, you know what I mean? From death threats to support, like literal death threats. I'm not even kidding. But, like, um, people hear political jargon and music on whatever side of the spectrum you might be on, left, right, center, left, whatever, right? They get turned off by it because they see music as sort of like a bit of escapism, right? And I get that, and I have songs for that, you know what I mean, where they're non-political and, they don't really touch on a lot of geopolitical topics, but people get turned off by that a little bit. And I understand that kind of side of things where they want to use music and they want to use art as a bit of escapism. But on the other hand, it's just a bit of expression for me as well. Like just naturally, I'm interested in a lot of geopolitical topics. I keep, paying attention to everything that I possibly can, and I see the world. Pessimistic as this may sound, and contrary to what you said, like I do see the world being just plagued with authoritarianism, fascism, and just general right-wing jargon that is holding the world back. I do think, whatever side you stand on, I think objectively conservatism is what holds the world back. It conserves the old and tries to push away the new, and that's the most simplest way that I could possibly put it. I have friends in my life, family in my life that are personally affected by a lot of the geopolitical talking points on the right. I have trans friends, who literally are fighting for their right to want to literally exist. You know what I'm saying? I have, people in the LGBTQ community as well who, have just been, all of these like talking points that just deny their very existence, for example. That's my family. That's like people in my life. That's people who I want to stand up for. You get what I'm saying? So when I hear all of these talking points, for example, on just that one topic alone, it just sets a fire under me to just want to like use my art as like a way to express that. And when it comes to just the politics side of things, like the leaders in any country, really, just authoritarianism and fascism in general. I mean, music has always been a way to rebel against that. I mean, the punk literally exists for that reason. You know what I'm saying?
It's also a
Metal.
conversation starter in a lot of, because I think what people miss, and I understand your point because it is true about people wanting to have their entertainment as escapism, but then you go, yeah, but it's also a way of reintroducing the concept of a conversation between the two sides. Like, we want to represent something in a non-literal form so that the core principle can represent itself, which is ultimately resolution. Like, we all have to coexist with each other, and politics are the means that we employ to try to do that. And there's various means that you do that. But when it comes to entertainment particularly, the naivety of some people is something that's never lost on me, because something like, oh man, I just want my fantasy and my side. And then you go, dude, like Lord of the Rings was written by Tolkien, and Tolkien was heavily influenced by his experiences in both world wars. So you go, like, and like, oh, yeah, but what about things like Star Wars? Empire Strikes Back is almost unilaterally a condemnation of Ronald Reagan and his regime,
Exactly.
told in the form of a space opera. Like,
Stormtroopers are literal Nazis. Like stormtroopers are literal like depictions of like Nazism. And not in like a distasteful like not in a way where it's like, okay, we promote this, but it's like in a way where in its own right, in its own world, in its own like world that George Lucas created, it's sort of it sort of
Well, who do you
represents what
think
we
the
have in real
Emperor is
life.
supposed to be an allegory of? Like, the fact
Of
is
course.
that first three movies is effectively a retelling of the first 50 years of the 20th century through the prism of, like, look, there's this beautiful a democratic republic. It slowly corrupts from within, with someone basically preaching peace and just trust me with your security, and trust all the while he's fucking both sides, assumes ultimate power, and everyone loves him for it, except for the people that know exactly how he obtained it. And you go, wow, these movies suck. And you go, they do if you just turned up to watch Space Wizards go phew. But if you were watching it for something like, actually, this is a rather nuanced retelling of history in the same way that Shakespeare used to do it, with fictitious characters and historical events. Like, it's a weird thing. But the point, just bringing it back to yourself, is that he had Lucas and Tolkien and so many others have to bury that ship deeper than they probably would like to, but
Just for the sake
ultimately
of entertainment. Yeah.
exactly, but they can make it palatable. And because it does, that message reaches hundreds of millions of people that it probably wouldn't have otherwise. And again, that's your challenge, is that ultimately it's not enough to be political. You have to motivate people to listen. So how then one broaches those subjects without turning people off is a tricky prospect.
It is, and I will say, like, Kanye, as loopy as the man may be, right? A broken clock's right twice a day, and one thing that he did say that did resonate with me quite a bit. As much as I detest his current views, um, it's all about ideas, bro. It really is, because you have to think. I look at it from the one message, because think about it. You said George Lucas and Tolkien, they use their political messaging. It's layered deep, but they make complex ideas easy to understand through the entertainment that they create. Now, if we put that in the sphere of music, right? Um, the idea that you can use entertainment to make a political message more palatable means that people will walk away with that idea much more. It'll resonate in their brain, and they'll walk away with it a lot easier, rather than just sitting in a college hall or whatever the hell, and you're just listening to a professor moan on for an hour about like geopolitical topics, right? When it comes to the sphere of rap, I mean, you have people like Tom McDonald, Adam Calhoun, and people like that who promote like a lot of conservative. They'll do a lot of right wing grifting, right? But it'll resonate with a lot of like right wingers, and it'll amplify a lot of this hatred, right? And it'll give them like a source and a means to resonate with the deep rooted bigoted hatred that already kind of exists. So in my sense, I'm just trying to like do the antithesis to that, right? And even before them, like, this is just what I believe. You know what I'm saying? Like, I put what I believe in a song. I want people to resonate with it and, entertain people with it, but also walk away with just a better mentality on certain things, or give people like a different perspective. If shit, dude, even if it's one little right wing grifter that like hates gay people, or like doesn't believe in like the income inequality, or like the fact that black people are much more economically disadvantaged than white people, like even though that these are proven facts, right? You could argue that the entertainment aspect of that music and the messaging of a better message could be taken away much more easier, like through that means, right? That's what I'm trying to do, but with something a little more good. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that I believe. It's something like, or things that I believe. It's things that I really stand by. But it's also, I want people to walk away, maybe with a new perspective. And if I can change at least one mind, then great. You know what I mean? If I can just do as little as get my message out there and have people hear it, whether they disagree with it or agree with it, fair enough. If it sparks the conversation, great. It's all about ideas. And in my perspective, it's just getting what I believe to be the right ideas out there. Everybody thinks they're right. Everybody thinks that they're the most fucking correct person in the goddamn world. Like, I try to look at things through as much of an objective scope as I possibly can. And there were things that I said in older politically charged songs that maybe were coming from a more naive perspective. I look at the Trump song, it's my most successful one, and I look back at it and I'm like, I could have, like, I have a good heart here. I've got a good angle here. Maybe I could have executed it a little bit better with 23-year-old me brain. You get what I'm saying? I could have, like, if it was 23-year-old me doing that song back then, I could have probably said the right points a bit better. You get what I mean? Like, I'm critical of myself like that, and I do think that, just like you said with Lucas and Tolkien, you can put that political messaging in there in a palatable way, in which has people walking away with a message that they could resonate with a lot more than if you were to just sit down and have a conversation and say it. It's as simple as that, and it's all about ideas. It's as simple as that, I suppose.